All right, I think we've got it. Hey guys, it's Marie Haynes here, and it looks like I just recorded a whole YouTube live without actually going live. So my apologies to those of you who were hanging out waiting for me to start. But let's try this again. So we're going to talk today about the latest in search. As I'm recording this, it's May 15th, 2018, and we have had a lot of things happen in the last week. We've had a couple of significant algorithm updates and some other stuff surrounding meta descriptions. I'm going to talk at the end of this episode about some things that Google's doing as a test that make me really, really scared for the future of SEO and for websites in the future. I'm not crying that SEO is dead, but I think that we have to pay really close attention to this. So we'll just get set here and we'll go ahead onto the newsletter. And let me just reset this as like I said, I went through everything before just speaking to myself. Okay. So let's talk about all of this is in the latest episode of the newsletter that you can find at mariehaynes.com/newsletter. We'll talk first about algorithm updates. There was a significant update on May 7th or 8th of so last week. And what I noticed was that pretty much every site that we saw that was affected by this update basically was affected by a previous update recently. So for example, these are examples from SEMrush. All of these clients of ours, they had way better evidence in Google Analytics showing that there were changes on May 7th. But sometimes SEMrush doesn't always show us the exact picture. But still, I prefer to use the SEMrush data than the client-specific data. This particular one that actually saw a nice improvement, we've been working with them to improve the way that they demonstrate their EAT, their expertise, authoritativeness, and trust. And they saw improvements with the April 30th update, which was all about general quality. And then they got even better on May 7th. And so this is a pattern that we've seen. This was another site that we worked with them to remove user experience. We found that there was a lot of really frustrating stuff on the site. And so they've been changing things to make it way better for users to use. We helped them trim out a bunch of really thin content and just worked on general overall improvements. And see, this is the thing now. In days past, we could often find a smoking gun and say, "Oh, if you just change this one thing, then you're going to see dramatic improvements." And now, it's all over site quality. And so this particular site saw improvements around April 30th, started a little bit earlier than that. And again, this doesn't look spectacular, but they did in analytics see better improvements on May 7th as well. And then I have another example here, same thing, that we worked with them to improve EAT, and then they saw nice improvements. This one started May 4th. I've seen sites anywhere from May 4th to 9th, but the majority of changes were on May 7th or 8th. And so at this point, I would say that this is just a tweak of the quality updates. And if you were affected, you need to look at doing a technical audit of your site. Paying really close attention to Google's quality raters guidelines, because all of these updates have to do with things that are discussed in these guidelines, in my opinion, anyhow. And then really, really, really work on making your site the most valuable as compared to your competitors. I think there's another update underway now. It may have started on May 13th, but May 13th was Mother's Day in the United States and Canada. And so everybody's traffic, well, most people's traffic, unless you sell flowers or something like that, most people's traffic is going to be down on May 13th. But if you have a sustained loss from that time, now it's only a couple days past that date, then I'm concerned that this actually may be a big update. I've had several sites contact me seeing massive losses on this day, and I'm a little bit suspicious that this may actually be a link-related update. A couple of the sites that contacted me had been using widespread guest posting, maybe even a PBN in order to rank well. And I think that Google's getting better at figuring out which links to count. So hopefully in future episodes, I'll have more information on this. But for now, if you were hit, I would start looking at links, although that's something where I don't think you can disavow your way out of this, because it's not like you can ask Google, to start counting those links again. They're already not counting them. So we'll have more information on that in the future. And I'd like to remind you guys that we have room for maybe 2 or 3 more clients in our new service that we're doing, where we'll keep an eye on your Google organic traffic and let you know when you've been affected by a significant update. So if you want to get in on that, I can give you more details on pricing and what's involved at mariehaynes.com/contact, and we can look into that for you. There's information here on the Webmaster Central blog. This is really all a review of stuff that we already knew. But if you're new to SEO, I would highly recommend that you read this post because there's some really good basic stuff that people should know. GDPR. I've talked about GDPR so much. I am by far not an expert on GDPR, but everybody is confused about it. You may have seen this article that I wrote to talk about what I'm telling my clients about GDPR and Google Analytics. To be brief, so that we don't have to keep talking about GDPR over and over again, if you're not in Europe, you may want to make some changes so that you don't end up losing some Google Analytics data. It's all outlined in the post here. You're not going to lose your traffic trends data, but if you have any sort of custom segments that rely on demographics, things like age and location, then you're going to lose those going back 26 months from, I think it starts on May 25th, thereabouts. So that's something really, really to pay attention to. If you're a Squarespace user, then you can now integrate directly with Google Search Console. So that's a good thing. This Google Assistant thing looks really cool, and I actually want to look into this maybe for a future newsletter and get this set up for my site. So the idea is that if you have a website that does regular updates, you can make it so that people can use your website in Google Assistant. So for example, if I had this set up, I could have it so that you say, okay, Google, tell me the latest update from Marie Haynes. And then you just get the updates for that week. So this is something you have to set that up through an actions directory. And that is definitely something that I want to look into soon. Google updated their image posting guidelines. There really isn't anything terribly new in here, although I found this quite interesting. If you do have an adult section of your website, then you want to make sure that and all of the images are in a very specific directory that is separated from the rest of your site. Otherwise, your entire site can be at risk for being filtered out by Safe Search. And Safe Search is, I believe it's on by default for most users. A lot of users would not know how to turn it off. And so, if you do have parts of your site that could be construed as adult, then you want to make sure that is well separated from the rest of your site. Some information here on local SEO, and Joy Hawkins has a good recap of some of the things that were announced at Google I/O. And this looks interesting. I think Google's going to start personalizing more things in maps. Who knows? They may say, "Oh, you're in this new city. Well, 5 of your friends have gone to this particular restaurant," and and so that's the type of thing that I think Google is going to start doing. Now, that's important because Google's getting better at recognizing, what are the businesses people are actually using. So I would highly recommend, if you have a local business, that you really, really pay attention to how users are perceiving your business on maps, and try to do all you can to encourage people with phones, especially Android phones, to come visit your business. I heard a joke once that somebody said, you should host Android meetups at your business on a regular basis. And that'll give Google all these signals that lots of people are visiting your business. So it's probably a good one to recommend. If you're a local business, you absolutely must be using Google Posts, and now you can use videos on Google Posts. it's hard to get clients to actually record videos. Really, really emphasize that they don't have to be professional quality. Hold your phone up. If you're a realtor, get a video of you with your family saying like, "Hey, we hope you buy a house with us," and just that personal touch. You can get it right in the knowledge graph results when people are looking for your business. So really, everybody should get videos up there. The thing with Google Posts, though, and I'm sure this applies to videos as well, is that they expire in 7 days. So you have to continually create new content to upload there. I included this in the newsletter, but it's not really SEO at this point. Where I'm sure you guys have seen this thing where the Google Assistant will soon be able to make phone calls for you and actually interact with human beings. So they give this example of the Google Assistant calling to make a hair appointment. Kind of scary stuff. And Google's getting pretty advanced these days. Now there's a new response notification. So if somebody leaves a response to a review, you get notified within 5 minutes of that. So that's a pretty exciting thing too. Now that's all we have from the free version of the newsletter. There are a couple of more things that I want to talk about. Let's just get this going here. Oh boy. And so we still have no video, but you have audio. I think this has to be because of our internet connection. I'm going to talk about these last few things and then we'll wrap this up and hopefully next week we're into our new office with faster internet. So hopefully that will work better for us. So let's just talk a little bit again about Google Maps. There's a thing coming out now where Google is going to make people who use the Google Maps API pay for use of Google Maps, which is not new. What is new, though, is even if you stay under the limit where it's free, you still have to give your credit card data, which is quite frustrating. And so it's frustrating because you get up to $200 of use for free, but you still have to give your credit card data. What we don't know if that also counts for embeds. If you have a map embedded, then do you still have to pay? If you have enough views of this map. So I'm going to keep an eye on that for you, and I'll let you know on that one. The other thing we want to talk about is meta descriptions. So about 6 months ago or so, Google told us that people noticed that we have longer snippets in the search results and that maybe we should be rewriting our meta descriptions. And so lots of people rewrote their meta descriptions, spent many hours rewriting meta descriptions, and now they're short again. They're apparently not as short as they used to be, but they keep changing. And so Google won't give us a word count. They won't say that you need to be this many words. And I think they're probably going to keep changing things. So should you be rewriting your meta descriptions? I would say no. Google's really good at picking out a snippet from your search results that actually match the searcher's query. However, I do think you should look at your snippets that display for your keywords and compare those to your competitors and say, is their result more enticing for people to click on? And, if not, then you need to make changes on your snippets, your meta description, essentially. And then the last thing I want to talk about is this thing that is a test that some people have been noticing. And it's Google saying, asking a question. It's saying, would you like to ask a question? And they're going to find the answer from site owners. And this is different from Google just doing search. I think what's happening is this is probably a machine learning set where they're learning how to answer questions that have never been asked before. So if you have a very simple question, Google can just extract that information from many places on the web. But what if there's a certain percentage of queries that have never been asked before? What if Google could learn how to answer all of those questions based on how much knowledge does Google have access to? Now, it might sound impossible for Google to do that, but I honestly think that it can happen. And if that happens, it means that many websites are not going to be needed in the future. And that's a scary thing. So I don't think we should all panic about it just yet. But what I do think we need to do is continually work on making the absolute best content that we can. If our website is just so fantastic and in a way that can't be summarized in a little paragraph, if we can give the best answers that help people's queries, then we hopefully will not become obsolete. So who knows? I think, maybe 10 years or so from now, we'll look back and on the glory days where we could all make money from having websites. And I think that's going to be a lot more difficult in the future. But I'm not despairing over it, because anytime things change, there's the opportunity for us to become the experts on that change and to help businesses to thrive still. So that's all we have for this week. My apologies again for the technical difficulties. This really should be our last week with technical problems. I wish you the best with your rankings. Take care.